Hello and welcome to Show Me the Podcast, episode 2. That's right, we're just as surprised as you that we've got this far, but we have, so...
Yeah, 2 episodes, well done us.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to the first episode, be kind and rewind yourself and listen to that because it gives you a bit of a rundown of what we're like as your hosts. We do give an individual top 5 live in films so far. So yeah, have a listen and come back.
As mentioned in our first podcast, we're going to be discussing a variety of topics from genres, actors, directors, much more, whatever people want to hear. But this week it's all about the genre, and it's quite a mix we've got for this one. It's some action, comedy, sci-fi and fantasy. And plus, we've also managed to rope in 2 fellow UE students. Steve happens to be an ex-film student who studied with us and is now a PhD student studying medieval fairies. You figure that one out. And then we've also got Dev, who just happens to be my partner and the father of my child. And he's basically Chandler Bing because nobody knows what he does, including me. So say hello, Steve.
Hello, you make me sound so sinister as a human being.
He is. And say hello, Dev.
Hello, I am a transmonster.
Good one.
We just want to say that throughout this podcast you might notice a difference in the sound quality and the intensity on the mics, and that's because, guys, we're fessing up. We're recording this intro and outro at a later date than what when we recorded.
We messed up the first time.
Yeah, we did. And also, we're just both recovering from colds now, so we might sound a bit funny and a bit coughy. So sorry about that.
A bit Phoebe. The Luma babies. My sexy phlegm.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let you know of that.
You're very honest.
I am.
So this week we're going to be delving into the super technical whackness of Marvel's latest movie venture, that is Thor Ragnarok. So Marvel's brought us many amazing characters such as Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and there's many more. And I guess like us, you all have your favourites. But for listeners out there who may not be quite familiar with the Marvel franchise, it's basically a breed of superheroes taken from the Marvel comics. They started in 1939. A name you might be familiar with is Stan Lee. He was one of the co-creators of some of the Marvel characters, and he tends to make the odd appearance in some of the films, including today's topic, which is Thor Ragnarok. And we must warn you that there may be a few spoilers. So if you don't want to hear what happens, I suggest you hit pause on this particular podcast, get yourself off to a local decent cinema. I saw it at Bristol in the director's lounge, so I got a nice screening. Harry didn't.
No, I went to a pants cinema, so yeah, make sure it's a good one because it did affect the viewing, I have to say. Yeah,
it makes all the difference. So yeah, once you've gone, come back and join us in for the discussion.
Listen.
We've got so much to say.
I'm feverish.
Yeah, so Harry says something stupid is because she's still ill.
Okay, right. So you guys, before we go any further, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Starting with, start with Deb again.
Because I'm the best.
Yeah.
What do you want to know? Like, what in film preferences or just?
No, what exactly do you do?
Says his partner.
I work in sales operations, which is, it's about as amorphous as it sounds. And I really
That's such a good word.
I'm a dictionary, but it's kind of sits between supporting business development and supporting operations. It's sounds super boring, but it's really exciting in the company I'm at.
Cool. Okay. Quick shoot. Top 5 films. No explanation. Just name them.
All right. Falling Down, with Michael Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic movie. Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. I'm not going to list all 3 of them because that would take up 3 of my slots. No Country for Old Men, which I love. Corpse Bride is another favorite of mine. Tim Burton, classic film. And that's 3 or 4.
It's 4.
That's 4.
4. All right, and then I'll go with Gladiator, which is an
Giggle.
oldie but goodie.
Yeah.
Cool. And Steve, medieval fairies. Just a quick explanation of that.
Yeah, I guess as kind of brief as you can be about a topic like that. But yes, essentially, I am a medievalist. I'm a PhD student and starting to be lecturer and teacher in medieval studies at the University of Bristol, looking at fairies in the medieval period.
Don't laugh.
Don't laugh.
Fairies
It's a
are
respectable
serious.
subject, Lorraine, I swear.
Okay, and your top 5 films, quickly.
My top 5 would be Dean Spanley, which is a 2008 film that not many people have heard out of, but I highly recommend watching if you can, with Peter O'Toole and Sam Neill. Cinema Paradiso, 80s Italian film about cinema and basically the changing things in cinema as it progresses. Also going to have to go with the Lord of the Rings film, Fellowship of the Ring.
Good man.
Again, I can't pick all 3 because that would be too much, but very good films. Silence of the Lambs. Again,
You're very welcome in this
I
house,
did-
Steve.
Yeah, I was thinking when I listened last week to your podcast, we're definitely in tune with that one, Lorraine.
Good. You're very welcome.
Why, thank you. And then I think Hot Fuzz would have to be
I
my
love
fifth.
Hot Fuzz.
Bit of
Hot
Edgar Wright.
Fuzz.
Hear that?
A little bit
Simon
Edgar Wright,
Pegg.
yeah. just possibly the most perfectly edited film ever.
Very well edited.
Just sublime.
Yeah. Cool.
Right then, Pod. First, we're going to answer some listeners' questions and then get into some spoilerific Thor Ragnarok chit-chat. And then we're going to finish off with a Flashback Film Club segment. Stick around to listen in. You never know. Could be one of your favourite films. So our first question is from Chris Phillips.
He asks, what makes a successful sequel/franchise? In Chris's opinion, it's how a world is built around characters. For example, he has used John Wick, but at this point I can't add anything because I haven't actually seen the John Wick films.
Really?
I haven't, but I do want to.
I feel like with John Wick, he's like the new Liam Neeson. He's like, Liam Neeson's now probably, no, he's still amazing, but you know, he's a bit older now. I feel like Keanu Reeves has taken over from kind of like Liam Neeson in Taken.
It's Quantum, baby.
Get
that back.
I do. I think he's taken over. But
yeah, I mean, I haven't even seen the John Wick films, but they just look cool.
they're
from the
pure
outside.
action. They're amazing.
Badass.
Number 1. I haven't seen 2 yet, but number 1 was really good. Just for choreography alone.
Oh, really?
I could watch that.
Yeah.
I could watch it on mute and it would still be incredible.
That's the good thing about a lot of action films nowadays is like it's like a dance almost, the choreographer in it. It's just like it's so precise and you can imagine it taking absolutely ages to film. But yeah, the fight scenes are epic.
But going back to Chris's question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
No, I think I've got a perspective on this one, and I'd agree with the idea of the universe being built around it. But I think the most important thing for me is consistency, where you don't try and change too much
Yeah.
between one film and the next. I think it can be really jarring when a new director picks up a franchise and it becomes, they try and put their spin on it, and it's
Thor 2.
A
Yeah.
few of the Harry Potters are similar to that. I think.
Yeah. So you can see these really jarring transitions, and just going back to Lord of the Rings for a second, you could see that consistency, especially because they're basically filmed all in one big piece. Really comes through, so you don't feel like one of them is really set apart from the others, and everything flows really nicely.
So do you think sticking with like the same director is probably hugely important? Because like some of these films, like Thor, for instance, has got 3 different directors for all 3 films. So, or maybe sometimes the first film's not that great, so they need something different.
it depends exactly. I think if it's done well the first time around, then you should carry on as it is. But sometimes it works in its favor. Like we'll get into Thor later, but the latest one I think is probably my favorite.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think it depends as well. Like it depends on the franchise, on the sequel. There's so many different things that can work and will work. And so with Marvel, for example, what I find interesting is that they had a formula. That formula worked. And then that formula started to get a little tired, and people started to complain about it.
Where would you say that it started to get tired?
So around, I think, particularly around Avengers 2, there was a
Yeah.
lot of complaints about third act structure and
Yeah.
them repeating certain themes about large areas of ground being destroyed, things like that.
The big city smash up.
Big city
Yeah.
smash up.
Mm.
And
Definitely.
I think since then, what Marvel has learned is that they need to change. They need to bring in new talent, new directors, mix things up a bit. And when we get into Thor Ragnarok, that's kind of something that's going to be covered, is just how how much Marvel's mixed up their formula a little bit and done something different. And so they've managed to keep growing because they've done something different with it. But in contrast to that, I'd say there are other films and times when you just don't want that to happen. And I'm hopefully going to be going to see Paddington 2 this weekend. I'm really excited for Paddington 2. And I don't want that to be any different from the first one. I want that to be exactly what the first one did. I want it to be as charming, as lovable, just that kind of same warm feeling. I don't want that to be them to mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
So it really depends, like on the franchise or on the sequel.
Well, yeah, I mean, the setting especially, I think, is important. I mean, like, Godfather is another example of an amazing trilogy here, where they managed to keep the theme of the setting bang on, even when they moved locations. But I think Thor and Marvel, you can get around that because you're moving to another one of the sort of locations in the universe. And so you can be like, yeah, it feels different here. And that's logically explained away, whereas...
I think Godfather is an example of where the second one is actually better, and Aliens, the second one is actually better.
Controversial.
That's just my personal
Very,
opinion.
yeah.
I think that they're examples of when they actually did a better job
I'm a Godfather 1 guy.
in the second one. Just saying.
Right, okay, so I don't really have any thoughts on that at the moment. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, so Lorraine, before we go into it, who is your favourite Marvel character?
My favourite Marvel characters is Wolverine is
Right
first,
on.
with a very close Iron Man second.
Cool.
So it is. What about you?
Yeah, Wolverine too. I love him.
Is it Logan that nailed that for you, or has he always been?
No, he's always been one of my favourites. Yeah, I've loved him in all the films, even though some of them have been really, really pants. And I'm a big X-Men fan.
I love
so,
X-Men films. I really do.
It burns me to say that, but it's true. But yeah, he's by far and away the best Marvel character
What
for
did
me.
you think of Logan?
I loved it.
I absolutely thought it was amazing.
It's
draining. Really draining.
It is emotional.
Very emotional.
Yeah, it's in one of. I'd say actually, in the first podcast, I said my favourite film of this year was Baby Driver, but I'd say Logan kind of competes with that for my film of the year for me.
I think on reflection, it is probably one of mine as well. Like, do you know what I mean? It was so. I think it was so emotional. I think you really felt for the guy.
Yeah,
You know, you kind of saw a different side to him, really. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think because as well, like they really, like, I mean, Hugh Jackman's not playing that character anymore, and I think he went out on the biggest bang.
Yeah, because he there's been some dud Wolverine films, unfortunately, like X-Men Origins. They didn't do that well, but on his last outing as X-Men, they did him
The best job.
They did him
The
justice,
best job.
definitely. And to be honest, on a side note from Marvel, even if you're not into superhero movies, watch Logan, because it's like a modern
Yeah.
western. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really
It's not
good.
really your typical superhero film. Like,
No.
if you've seen like any of the Avengers or Iron Man or anything like that, it's not like that. I think if that was your first intro to the Marvel franchise,
Yeah.
you would be very shocked probably when you watched any of the others, because it's actually nothing like them.
Oh my god! In the first 5 minutes, I was like wide-eyed. I was like, this is the superhero movie I've been
Yeah.
waiting for my entire life.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's a big recommendation for Logan, and as Wolverine as number one
Yeah.
Marvel character.
Yeah. Oh, we've got the same one then.
Yeah. Okay, and now we're going to move on to talk about Thor Ragnarok. It's the third in the Thor franchise, directed by New Zealander Taika Waititi. He also made Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows, and he also had a part in The Flight of the Conchords. He also, coincidentally, plays the voice of the character Korg in the latest Thor Ragnarok film. So, guys, let's get into it. What were your initial thoughts on Thor?
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was pure action porn the whole way through. And once the Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song kicked in to that fight scene, I was just like literally hopping out of my seat. Had I been home, I probably would have. But I for me, a song in a music in a film completely changes everything for me. Like at the end of Fight Club, when the Pixies' "Where Is Your Mind" kicks in, it's just perfect use of a song. And I think when you can get it that spot on, that comes in, and the next thing he's just going for it. I just like completely lit up when I saw it. I got a bit too excited with that film.
Can you do that again, please?
I've got some thoughts on it. I mean, the very first scene, he's sort of dangling there by the chains, and it's all sort of quite obviously supposed to be really funny. And I was like, oh man, are they going to do this? Because I've always had this thing against action movies where they try and put too much comedy into it. And I feel like it kind of kills any gravitas that an action film can have. And so when it started out, that's what I thought was going to happen. And then they totally pulled it off. I mean, it seemed to flow really smoothly. And I thought it was hilarious. That core character is just...
Yeah, he was really
oh my god,
so good, so good. Piss off,
Ghost.
yeah.
Now you get it. In the first one, you didn't. Episode. I said it to Lorraine. She was like, "What do you want about?"
I hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah. I'm completely on board with that. To be honest, I really liked it. There was something really gratifying for me as well about the sort of the Norse elements that crept into it.
Yeah.
I knew you'd say that.
Finally, you get to see things like Surtur destroying Asgard, Fenrir the Wolf appears, for example. It's just like things that you never get to see in cinema. It's like, yes, finally, someone's putting that on screen.
Yeah.
But then coupled with just how funny it was, and like again, Korg, just incredible. I nothing tops for me that final line as Asgard's being destroyed, and he's just going, "It's okay. The foundations are strong. We can rebuild." Oh, maybe not.
He's so positive, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's got I can't remember what the line is, but it's something about he's carrying.
His friend's dead.
Companion, and he's like, "Oh no, he's been dead for a while now.
I just didn't want to leave him."
Carrying him because I felt bad.
Yeah.
In the first 5 minutes, I was just like, I'm on board with this. This is a lot of fun, especially when he's in the chains and he spins the wrong way and he's like, wait, I'm coming back round. That was good.
I found that really cheesy though. That was
Did you?
that was the part where I was like, oh my god, is this gonna be full of cheesy gags? And then after that, I felt that it all went really well. But that first scene, I was like, oh no, this is like real slapstick, and I felt like it wasn't right for the film. But the rest of it, I thought was great. Bar, what's her face falling off of her ship when she was really pissed. I was like,
yeah, that was a bit too much. I found that, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to take a moment to talk about Cate Blanchett, because she was sick in that. I mean,
she was, but
I think the word you used was hot, Dev.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
you know what,
right.
Cate Blanchett, hot on the record, right there.
Well, I said it too, so I agree. She looked amazing, and she was amazing.
I don't think we got enough of her, I have to
No.
say. I think that was one of the flaws of the film. We didn't get enough Cate Blanchett. There wasn't enough character development there, I thought.
Yeah, she literally just pops up. You've never heard of her before, and it's like, here's this character who's awesome, and it's like, but she's just kind of thrust into it, and there's like, oh, her power, she's limitless power, and she's there for like 5 minutes, and then Surtur shows up and fucks everything up with his sword, and I was like, all right. I could have done with more of her. Definitely, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And like when you brought up the whole, you've got Fenrir and stuff, I thought, I did the exact same thing when we saw that big wolf. I was like, fuck yeah, he's in a film. I'm so excited. They barely did anything with him. It really upset me.
I was a little upset with how quickly he was just cast off the edge of Asgard, and I was just like, he's such a cool looking wolf and a cool character to have included in this. Maybe they could have done something more. But I think that was a minor grievance for me. There was so much going on in this film that I just felt like, it just took me along on a kind of roller coaster ride, and I was fine with it in the grand scheme of things. So.
Yeah, overall, I let them off for that.
So I got a question for you guys. Do you think this was more of a comedy or an action film?
I'd say comedy.
I'd say...
Think about what you liked about it.
There wasn't enough action for me.
No, I liked the first time Led Zeppelin came in, epic, and then it was just more about comedy, and then obviously the final scene, which, as you pointed out, was too short.
Yeah.
I felt like there could have been more. But like what you said, Dev, I thought the comedy actually was spot on. Chris Hemsworth completely pulled it off.
He was amazing.
And I didn't know if he would or not, because like you at the start, I was kind of like, what did you say?
I didn't like Hulk. I loved him in all the other, I loved him in the Avengers and Age of Ultron and all that. He fell flat for me in this one.
I felt it was almost there. I'd agree. Like, it wasn't like perfect for me. There were parts that were really good. Like, you know, where he tells like, Thor, you go, Thor, and then like he runs into the wall. He's go again. That was funny.
I'm a bit confused about. Maybe I've just completely forgotten the Hulk character. But was he that chatty ever?
No, because he's meant to have sort of developed as Hulk, but
still Bruce Banner.
No, he's not. He doesn't want to be Bruce Banner anymore.
Okay.
So he stayed as Hulk since the Age of Ultron. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah, I
developing.
remember that,
He's
yeah.
like developing mentally. That's why he's speaking.
Oh, because he's been it for so long. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Because I was like, no, I'll be honest with you. I have to agree, Harry. I thought he was too chatty. I just didn't think it was. I didn't think he was. I just think he was a guy that chatted, that looked like the Hulk, when he was doing.
Yeah.
When they were in his bedroom.
I think Taika Waititi said it was like
He pulls out
the
the
Hulk
director
is.
quite obviously.
It's kind of like he was a like toddler age child,
Yeah.
and he's described that bit where he's talking with Thor as being like a parent chatting with a child and being like, you just can't do that, you can't do those kind of things, and Thor's like, what? Hulk's like, oh, why not?
Yeah, he was like a petulant child, really, wasn't he, the way he was carrying on.
I get it. It just didn't work for me.
I agree.
Think this comes down to what I was saying earlier about consistency. It was this big jarring change. Everyone's used to Hulk being a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's like, what? He's like a totally different character now, and it wasn't. There was no sort of preparing you.
He
for
didn't have that mean look on his face. Like, do you remember in the Avengers when he goes for Black Widow, and she's like trying to calm him down, and she's got his foot in his face, but you don't get that in here. It's kind of like. Yeah, what are you whispering?
Sun's getting real low. Sun's getting real low.
Sun's getting real low. But yeah, no, he doesn't have that. You know, I mean, when he was fighting Thor, I enjoyed the whole. We're friends. We work together. You know, that was brilliant. But you know, he just. I don't know. He wasn't scary, and he's supposed to be a bit scary, really, isn't he?
I remember thinking that there were a few points because like Hulk is essentially like on the verge of indestructible, and like the more angry he gets, the more powerful he gets. But I felt like they kind of capped him on this.
Yeah.
Like if you looked at like the standalone films for Hulk, we'll ignore the first one. Although actually I liked it a bit. He was. Yeah, no, I don't know. I got mixed feelings about both. But you know, he's like way more intense. Whereas with this, they're like, no, we don't want him to overpower the other characters, so they kind of like set him a limit, which I feel is limiting, you know, obviously. But I keep finding myself like, I liked the fight with Thor, that was pretty cool, but I keep finding myself coming back to the comedic bits that I really liked. So like, you know, when Loki goes, yes, that's how it feels, you know, and you know, those were the bits that got me, that I enjoyed the most. So I feel like for me, I liked it most for the comedic value, and it just had fun action bits to spice it up.
Yeah, that particular fight.
The film in its entirety.
As in its entirety, yeah.
Okay.
But that whole fight with Thor and the Hulk, it was what Thor was saying, and of course Loki's reaction when you know, puny human type slapping around, that I found entertaining.
I thought it was really interesting in that fight because you actually see Thor's strength really in its entirety there.
Yes.
Like
he's stronger than I thought he was, the way he was with the Hulk. Yeah.
Like I
was like, how are you
destroys that arena by sort of just like punching whatever Hulk, and I was just like, oh, that's interesting.
But then he gets the shit kicked out of him with like, you know, lots of punches, And yet he just
He's
he
fine.
pops.
He's a god.
He is a god.
Yeah.
I agree, especially with that new haircut.
Were the naked scenes particular?
Yeah, because
Bonus.
me and Dev went to see it the other day, and I came out and I was like, bloody hell, Kate Blanchett, man, she's looking good. Like, amazing figure on her, like amazing actress, but she looks amazing. And Dev's like, yeah, she's hot. And I went, well, Chris Hemsworth looks good too. And he goes, yeah, I was going to point to you and say how good he looked, but he did.
He didn't want to do. He didn't want to do.
He didn't
those
want to take
films.
his shirt off this time.
Why deny us?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to cheapen himself. You know, he's better than that.
Yeah,
He
but-
does slapstick comedy now. That's his thing.
Well, I think apart from the topless scenes, he was still amazing in it. And
Yeah.
I did like the haircut, but I was very sad that the hammer went. I didn't know that was happening. Maybe other people did.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I
didn't know.
Did you know? No, I think
I think it
because
was
now
in
I
the
think
trailer.
what
Yeah.
was it? I
Yeah.
mustn't have
Oh,
even
I
seen the
didn't see
trailer
that.
then. But no, I just was like, you know, and the fact that she crushed it so easily. How did she? You know, how did he manage to?
Do you know the worst? The during that scene, because I'd seen so many trailers, my first thought was, why isn't it in an alley?
Why
Yeah.
is it in an alley?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
in the trailers it's in
Oh.
New York somewhere.
What, when she crushes it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
they
know.
switch it up and they move it to a different location.
To
in
a
the
very
actual film.
bad green screen Norway. That kind of
Yeah.
pulled me out of it a bit. I was just like,
I didn't even notice, if I'm
did
honest.
you not?
No.
Oh, I did.
Maybe if I'd
what-
seen the trailer, I might have been looking
Maybe.
for it. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
because
never
they're
spotted.
Loki and Thor are in New York, and then Loki disappears, and yeah,
I think that's a classic case of where sometimes seeing the trailers is probably not good for you.
Mm.
yeah. I hadn't. I thought I'd seen a trailer. I obviously hadn't.
I don't think I might have seen like little clips, but
Because
you know,
that's when like the immigrant song comes and she just like crushes it and you're like, oh my god, and they've got like Skuck's Life in the back or whatever it is
Yeah.
from Will Hunt for the Wilder People. Ode to Taika Waititi.
the one thing actually I meant to comment on this was I also loved the bit where Thor hits Hulk with the hammer the first time and slams him down the arena.
So good.
That was awesome. And the other thing I was going to point out now while we're commenting on Thor's like immense strength and durability, it's like the most nitpicky thing to point out. You know the bit where they're flying up the devil's anus, which I just need to take this moment to pause and say how awesome a name that is for that.
How'd they get
particular
away
thing.
with that?
Yeah. But they're flying out and they're all doing their like grimacing face from the force of it. And it's like you've got Bruce Banner, who at this point is just a dude. And then like Thor, who is the god of thunder. And they're both like going, ugh! And I'm like, well, if it's that bad for Thor, like surely Bruce is pretty screwed. Like,
Yeah, but the
you know?
Hulk's within him.
Yeah,
That's
but
what keeps him going.
oh, the bit where he jumps out of the jet.
Oh,
onto-
God.
when he,
That
when he
shit
goes,
is
she
incredible.
she says something like, you know, who are you? And he goes, now you're going to see something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
she just falls. Yeah, that was brilliant. That was so funny.
I particularly love about that you just get Fenrir just kind of pulling up in his charge and just like pouring at it like a curious dog and just being like, what has just happened?
But everyone kind of just pauses, don't they, for a second, and looks, and then they're like, and then they just carry on about their day.
That was one of my pet. I mean, just
Yeah,
the
no, I agree.
timing, it was really well done.
Yeah.
Like it was really funny, but at the same time, it was also kind of like, oh my god, is he dead? You know, like it
It's-
was.
Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
because he said in one of the previous films he can't be killed because he's tried.
We can't. No,
Yeah, he
no,
tried
we all,
every way.
we all knew, but there was this
Yeah.
kind of part where you're
Yeah.
like, oh man.
But he did also
Yeah, but
say
they
he
should
did
have been.
also say if he changes into
Hulk again, he won't come
may
back.
never come back.
Yeah.
So we may have seen the end of Bruce Banner in that, but only time will tell.
Maybe Mark
another film.
Ruffalo didn't want to act anymore, and they're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do?
Are we gonna
He's always the Hulk
throw him
now.
out of a spaceship?
One character I think definitely needs a mention is the Grandmaster, played by Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
I'm not being so funny, but in what was it called, Sakaar, and him, did anyone get a Fifth Element vibe?
Yep.
I did.
Totally.
I did.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Because what is it he says about don't call them slaves? They're
Oh,
they're
they're
prisoners with jobs.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like that word.
I just loved it when those like fingers sparkled and he's like, ooh, hey, what you got going there, Sparkles?
Yeah, no, Jeff Goldblum was perfect for that.
No,
Yeah,
he was brilliant.
he was just playing himself though, really.
Yeah,
No.
basically, yeah.
Because you see him on he was on the Graham Norton show, and like the gestures he does with his
Yeah.
hands and the movement, and he just did the same thing when
Did
he was on.
anyone stay for the post credit stings?
Yeah,
We
I
did.
saw
And
one.
he does that bit where he just comes out of the spacecraft and he's like, well, it was a good fight, everyone. Well done. Let's call it a draw, maybe. Like, just like completely plays it off.
We just seen one.
Yeah, we
so
just
there was
saw
another
Do you not
one.
see it? Yeah, there's always two. And so
balls.
you got to
Fuck.
stay right to the end of the credits.
Oh, I didn't see that.
No.
No.
I thought he was brilliant casting as
He
him.
was.
Because
Yeah.
he was actually quite likable. I mean, he was a complete bastard, but he was actually quite likable. I liked him.
Because apparently his character in the Marvel universe is like millions of years old.
Yeah, no, but he
Mm.
said that, didn't he? Like on Earth, he'd be.
Isn't he also meant to
Super
be
old.
the brother of the collector in
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
I think they're meant to be related.
They're
Yeah.
going to be an interest. I look forward to when those two come together. I think
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
that'd be a good combo.
You know, Sakaar actually was the point where I felt they kind of really introduced this kind of 80s soundtrack that I thought was fantastic. But I was like, at the same time, I was like, are they kind of stealing? It was almost like Tron's soundtrack, but ripped off.
The end credits.
Yeah.
That song. I mean, I loved it because I love the 80s.
But I think they
But-
brought it in at Sakaar.
Yeah, but because remember at the end credits, we said it was just like lovely.
It still baffles me why they used the Willy Wonka song as he's going in to meet Jeff Goldblum's character.
I love that.
Oh,
It
it
was
was
I really love that.
when he's going through the.
It makes
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
makes no sense in the context of another world
it-
where
No.
Yeah,
surely they don't have Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
But I loved that was there because
I did. Yeah. I appreciated it for what it was, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I was like, it's got no place in this universe whatsoever.
You could work your way around it. You could say it's the devil's anus has shit out some
Some
book
Roald
of it,
Dahl.
some Roald Dahl from which is fallen out of a I don't know, space probe filled with artifacts, and I don't know. You could come up with some reasonable but stretched explanation for that, I think.
Yeah.
But yes, it did. It was a little bit like, what? All right.
but then again, I suppose that's almost kind of cool because they're doing it. It's a Marvel film. You're like, what the fuck? But it's a Marvel film, so this is out of place. But it's
Yeah.
I want to talk about Anthony Hopkins in this.
Oh yes.
Not the right film.
It always deserves a mention.
I think there were probably more scenes filmed with him, especially when they find him on Earth. But going back to when you first meet him on Asgard, I thought he played
When he's
Loki.
like draped over.
Yeah, so when he goes,
The
oh
couch.
shit, when he sees it,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my god, I just cried of laughter.
he was incredible in a scene that had so many good moments. Possibly one of the best scenes in the movie, with cameos from amazing actors.
Oh yeah, oh my god.
Like just the amount of actors
Oh,
in
Matt
that
Damon
sequence.
and Luke
Like,
Hemsworth.
Yeah,
Matt Damon,
yeah.
Luke Hemsworth. Like
And
just
tops off to Luke Hemsworth for like pretending to be his brother.
Brother.
Yeah. Didn't he? I've heard. Didn't he also audition for?
I think it was
Thor
Liam
originally?
who.
Oh, it was one of the other
Yeah,
Hemsworth
yeah.
brothers. But yeah, just and then again, Anthony Hopkins just steals the show
Yeah, he
there,
totally-
pretending to be Loki.
Yeah.
Pretending to be him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just amazing.
Mm.
One of the best scenes in the film, I think.
I didn't know Matt Damon was in it because I remember looking at it and I was like, is that Matt Damon? Yeah, they do it very well. I thought that scene was great actually.
Yeah, it was good. I was a bit shocked, to see Matt Damon in
I was
it.
really shocked to
Yeah.
see Matt Damon.
I did that, you look around in the cinema like, are you seeing this as well?
Yeah.
Did anyone else though? Did anyone else have the moment where they're like, "Oh my god, that's Sam Neill. Oh my god,
Yeah,
that's Matt
Yeah.
Damon. Wait, who's that playing Thor?"
No, I knew.
Did you get
I'm
it?
a Westworld
Oh, okay.
fan.
No, I
knew
didn't.
straight
I'll
away.
admit to that, Steve. I was in
I
the
did
same
not
boat.
know.
I didn't
Was
get
Sam
it.
Neill in it?
Yeah, Sam
Oh
Neill.
my god, he was Odin.
Sam
he played
Neill
Odin
was
on the stage.
playing Odin.
Oh, he did.
I even
Oh,
pointed and was
bloody
like,
hell.
look, and you were like,
Oh my god, he did. God,
Your facial expression.
slow learner here.
Yeah, the bit in Norway. I just thought there could have been a bit more Anthony Hopkins.
yeah, it did feel really rushed. It was like, hey, I haven't got much time, but huge plot points.
You've got
yeah. You've got sister, she
I've
will
been
have
pretty
limited
fucked up
power.
with him, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay, Dad. I'll go sort her out.
Yeah, now I'm gonna disappear and sparkle off into the wind.
No, but when Hella actually came out, I actually said to Dev, I was like, because I didn't know Kate Blanchett was in it. I was like,
Oh my god, where?
I know, I have a child. I never get to do anything anymore. I said to Dev,
Blame
is
the
that Kate Blanchett? I know. I was like, is that Kate Blanchett? And Dev went, no. And I,
And I did not
you did say
that
no.
live.
No, you said no first of all, and then I was watching it. I was like, that is Kate Blanchett, and I didn't want to take my phone out and look
Are you
because
that
you're in the
annoying
cinema.
couple in the cinema?
No,
Were you
no,
like,
it
"Will
was-
you shut the fuck up."
We were very quiet, but I didn't want to take my phone out because I didn't want it to light up. And I was like, I looked at him and I went, that is Kate Blanchett. And he goes, yeah, it is Kate Blanchett. But you know,
You could tell right off that's Kate Blanchett.
No, that's right,
She's-
but-
yeah.
But it's just because she wasn't in it. I didn't think she would. I didn't know she was in it, and I just saw it, and I was like, "Wow, Kate Blanchett's looking good." Her outfit was amazing.
Amazing.
That was
Amazing.
CG apparently.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Like they, you know, she was obviously in a leotardy thing, but they put the dots on her.
Motion capture.
That's about
That's
That
like,
one.
that's impressive. That because actually I wouldn't have guessed that. I think.
No,
that,
I don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Halloween costume next year.
Yeah, I love that outfit.
Oh yeah, I could pull that off.
After Slimming World, I'll be able to get into it.
You know,
Got the hair.
I love.
Keep it this colour.
It won't come across here, but I love the hands over the head sweeping back to do her helmet
Oh.
thing. That was pretty cool.
Was anyone else really glad with how quickly she killed off the Warriors
I hate them.
3
I hate them.
characters?
I was happy they just went.
I think they were some of the worst
Brutal.
bits.
Sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
genuinely, they were like they fitted quite well with Kenneth Branagh's first film.
Yeah.
They fit into that narrative quite nicely because it was this sort of weird contrast between Asgard and Earth, and it played quite nicely there. But then they were kind of terrible characters, and I'm quite
They were
glad
dead
that
weight. Yeah.
they were dead weight. I'm glad they just got killed off unceremoniously and quickly.
I
at the
would have
beginning.
liked a bit of a thing with Sif, but I know that the actress couldn't be there. Otherwise, I think she would have
She
given
might-
Hela a little bit of.
Yeah,
shit,
well,
but-
maybe she might then have the potential to come back in later films at
Oh, that's-
least. Although they're probably not going to do a Thor 3 now, a Thor
No,
Thor
I
4
think-
now,
I
are
think
they?
No, that would
Thor
sound
4.
Thor 4.
Thor 4.
I can picture the ads
Thor
now.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, I had no beef with them going.
Yeah.
So.
It was good. Thor 2 in general was probably one of the worst Marvel films anyway. But
Thor 2.
Thor 2.
I
Thor
watched
2
that
was
the
not
other
great.
day. Yeah.
It doesn't.
I like it, but I don't.
It doesn't
like
offend
it,
me.
like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't offend you.
It's
No,
fine.
yeah, I know what
The
you
problem
mean.
is, like,
It's fine. That's exactly what it
even
is.
even the worst of the even the worst of the Marvel films is probably still better than a lot of what, say, DC are doing, which is it's just bad. It's just bad.
DC are bad.
Yeah.
Not. I think
Not
he means recent
late-
DC.
the recent DC
like Ben
movies.
Affleck.
So the
Okay, I'm
recent
just
ones.
going to put it out there. There's nothing wrong with Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yes, there is.
There
There's
is
so
a lot
much,
wrong.
No,
There's
there
so
isn't.
much
There,
wrong.
oh my god, you have to. They're high fiving each other. You have to see what kind of Batman he is. He's the older guy Batman.
He's a
He's a
shit
crap
Batman.
No,
He's a
you
shit
two. No. Did you like him as Batman? Well,
Dev
you
shook his head
three
then.
Can
Yeah.
fuck off because I thought he was bloody good. I thought Ben Affleck was good as Batman.
I fell asleep and I would never
Okay.
fall asleep during a
Michael
superhero
Keaton was the
movie.
best Batman. We
Yes.
all know that.
Yes.
But I thought that Ben Affleck did a good one. And one of the reasons is because when he's under his mask, he doesn't sound like Jim Carrey. Like what the other fella did. What's his name? Christian Bale. Christian Bale's amazing, good actor, but no. But
I'm Batman.
But no, I liked Ben Affleck. I thought he did what he had to do for the Batman he was supposed to be.
No.
No.
But
DC will be another
I'd agree
time.
with Steve on this that Marvel are generally the standard for superhero movies at the moment.
Amen, brother.
Well, but I would just like to point out that the best superhero of all time, is Superman. Just saying. I'm getting
Yeah.
stared at here. No, he is. Oh God, go back to Christopher Reeve.
I can.
Do you mean hot Henry Cavill?
No, I mean Christopher Reeve.
No, he was good.
Okay, Henry's hot, but Christopher Reeve.
I think Henry is not bad.
He-
The
Henry
first one,
is
yeah.
good,
Yeah.
but I'm not being funny. Henry's good, but
But the films haven't been.
no, I
I
like the
liked Man of
films,
Steel.
but
Yeah, Man of Steel was good.
The first half,
but
then
Christopher Reeve
You think?
is Superman. Christopher Reeve, best superhero. of
I
all time.
can't really judge Christopher Reeve because I've watched like one and a bit and forgot the rest.
Really?
Yeah.
to be fair, I am with you, Lorraine. The first two Christopher Reeve ones, like Superman 1 and 2, I really like. They are excellent superhero films, and
Yeah,
they're
but
kind
also-
of the ones that basically start the entire genre
That's because
superhero
Terrence Stamp
movies.
does an amazing job as General
Terrence Stamp,
Zod.
yeah, incredible.
But then Richard Pryor, when he pops in, does a really good job as well. In the third, I think it's the third one, that giant robot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it
Sorry.
back to Marvel now.
Sorry, sorry. DC will be another time.
Extreme tangent.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well let's talk about Loki.
I kind of felt with Loki in this one. I do like Loki's character, but I kind of felt that he was just a little bit of a sidekick there every now and again, like the kind of person you bring out to entertain the crowd while the main act's busy.
I think that actually they even said it in the film where it's like, brother, you're becoming so predictable. I start to trust you and then you betray me. And I was like, yeah, exactly. And then inevitably the end result must be that he then surprises us by not betraying him. And it was just kind of like, I knew exactly what his character was doing the whole time. He was funny at times.
No, I like the character and I like Tom Hiddleston playing it, but I don't think they gave, like the other films that he's in, I've always thought he's been brilliant in it. And I just don't think he was given enough in this. I don't know. I just felt like he wasn't overly...
I don't know where his character is going to go from here.
No, and that's what I mean. In this, he didn't seem to really, apart from the odd bit of betrayal, he didn't really seem to have anywhere to go, like you said. Yeah.
I think he has possibly a big character arc in the what's it called? The next Avengers. What's it called? You know,
Infinity War.
Yeah, Infinity War. I think he's got a big role to play in the shit that happens in that film. And I don't think he wants a part in it, but I think he's going to get drawn in because he's been a bad guy. He's going to be that.
Oh, right, okay.
I would counter that actually and think I reckon he might be killed off.
No, I love Loki.
Yeah, I could see him.
I like Loki, but I think he should be used more than he was in Thor.
Well,
No, I thought
supposedly...
he had a lot more time in this film than he had.
No, but I think he was just kind of there. One thing I want to ask, because Harry's kind of made a note about this, that Loki's eyebrows tweak me out. Can you please explain that?
Sorry, but his eyebrows are like 3 times the size that they were in the other films, which just really tweaked me out.
Are they actually?
Yeah, check it. Have a look, and they're like slugs on his face.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this now. And
That was the first thing I noticed in the trailer. I was like, what the fuck have they done to his eyebrows? And I think that might be the whole 80s Fifth Element theme, but yeah, I noticed it. good work, costume design.
Yeah, those aren't horns on his head. No, I didn't. I can't say I noticed that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have a look now.
What are your opinions of the design of Asgard? Because it doesn't work for me, I have to say.
What, the aesthetic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
We'll defer to Steve on this one, definitely.
I think I'm with you in that it was a bit too glam. Gold. Too much gold.
Too shimmery. Needed some wood.
Yeah, but they even said that, didn't they? That he
needed some.
They even said that about Odin, didn't they? He stole all the gold.
Yeah. Yeah, but I really like what they did in this film where you saw the kind of the more rural areas of Asgard and you saw the mountain hideouts
when
and
they were
saw
escaping.
That's true.
It wasn't all about the glitz and the gold.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and this might be entirely my own preferences, but I'd have liked to have seen a more traditional Norse kind of look to Asgard, something a bit more in keeping with Norse mythology.
With the way that this character is, he's space Viking. They didn't meet it in the middle well enough. It was just a bit too gold. They could either go more Viking or more spacey. It wasn't anything. It was almost like Discworld. From Terry Pratchett, you know. But that's my opinion.
No, actually, what you were saying then, Steve. You know the door that old Idris has all his little guys hiding out in. I thought that that big stone door was more in keeping with what you'd expect than any of these giant. Like it looked like a big organ, like in a church. But perched on a waterfall.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Bifrost though. I had to say, I do like.
Yeah, I love the Bifrost.
Yeah,
It's so
and
colourful.
Rainbow Bridge.
Having said that, my favourite of the Marvel films so far have been the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and the fact that Thor has kind of edged more and more towards that aesthetic I really like. I like the fact that it's become this sort of weird sci-fi comedy romp.
Yeah, I like that in terms of the whole film and like Sakaar and everything.
Yeah.
It was just what they did with Asgard.
But I thought I'm
in all of them.
I guess in a sense what I'm saying is Asgard, the
Is
way they
irrelevant.
did Asgard sort of fit into that aesthetic quite well. It fit into that glitzy, almost oh, damn it, Flash Gordon. That's what I mean. There's a very sort of Flash Gordon aesthetic to it all.
I suppose.
Oh God, yeah.
That I thought it actually,
yeah.
whether that was the intention from the offset when Kenneth Branagh did the first Thor film, I don't know, but it's lined up really nicely with that. And considering, again, referring to some of the footage that has been shown from the first Infinity War film, where it looks like Thor is going to meet up with the Guardians crew, the fact that those two worlds have been brought together quite nicely, I quite like. I think that works quite well.
How's it going to work though without his hammer? Is he just going to be the thunder guy?
God.
The thunder god. No, but you know what I
Thunder
mean?
guy.
He doesn't
Yeah.
need it anymore because that's
'Cause
what Odin says. Like,
Yeah,
it was just
but
to
it's
channel
just-
your power. But
I
now
know,
you're the
you know,
shit.
you kind of...
It is a fairly iconic part
Yeah, exactly.
of
I
who
do-
Thor
point of
is.
view.
At the beginning of this film, when he uses it, he's fucking badass at that.
Yeah.
Hammer,
Yes.
I have to say.
Yeah.
That was the most impressive I've seen him with the hammer in the whole of the films.
Yeah, I actually think he was better in this film than the other two, even though I did like one.
I like
But
that.
that's Kenneth Branagh, so he's great. But
Yeah.
I thought he was the best in this film.
Thor
As Thor.
Yeah,
Out of
I
the three,
agree.
I think he was better as in this film.
What did you guys think of Scourge?
He's comical.
Good actor.
Yeah.
But
I felt a bit
he's-
sorry for him in this film, if I'm
he's-
honest with you, because
He's
He
a bit
was
of a
kinda-
bit part.
He wasn't needed. He could have easily been written out there.
No, I liked him in it, and I
You
kind of
forgot who he was?
no.
Yeah, I got
no.
by the way, I
I
got a bunch
knew-
of blank faces there when I said, "What did you guys think of Scourge?" And
I
was
thought
like,
you were
"What?"
talking about the
No.
scrolls, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did I quite liked his character arc. I like how it ended. The fact that he was sort
No, I
of
didn't want him to die.
reluctantly dragged into being a baddie. Like he wasn't.
He wasn't a baddie.
He wasn't a baddie. He was
No.
kind of just
He did what he had to survive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
at the end, he has this moment of realization.
Yeah.
It kind of goes down guns blading with Des and Troy. And
He did a bit of a hot fuzz moment there. You see the way he pulled out the
Yeah,
guns and he
that's
was like
true,
this.
actually.
Total hot fuzz moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
I quite liked him. I mean, it might just be because I like Carl Urban and
I like Carl Urban.
whatever he does, I just feel like, yeah, Carl Urban, great.
And I knew it was him in the film.
I like him in Star Trek.
I
have to
love
say.
him.
I
In
think
Star
he plays
Trek.
great roles.
Yeah.
I'm such a Star Trek fan.
He's definitely a good Bones.
So much better than Star Wars.
No.
No.
Just saying. You
More
two stop
high
high-fiving each other, Harry. You're supposed to be my buddy, not his. Deb, Star Trek?
Yeah, no, I love the Star Trek. I'll high five
High
that.
five.
That seemed like a
Yeah,
reluctant
but,
high
yeah, but
five.
better than Star Wars. Oh, Jesus.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like the old.
Could you not have told me this before we had a child together?
But yeah,
Um,
back to Scourge though. I think.
Sorry.
I got mixed feelings about him. Like on the one hand, I feel like he wasn't a particularly original character.
No.
Um,
It was alright.
but he was all
yeah.
right. He
Yeah.
was yeah.
He filled in like the pudgy gaps.
Yeah, and it was kind of inevitable. Like, oh, now he's gonna do something good because he's been he was a reluctant bad guy. So I felt it was a bit of a cliched role.
So, what do we think of Tessa Thompson's character?
She grew on me as
Yeah.
it progressed. I at the start, she kind of came across a bit childish, but as it progressed, like, when she got into her, the Valkyrie costume?
That was like right at the end though.
Okay, so yeah, it took a while. But yeah, no, she really grew on me. It took a while though. It had to build up.
I don't know sorry, I can't remember which one of you mentioned it, but when she like stumbles out of her craft, I was a bit like,
Yeah.
But then she pulled it back quite a bit, I think.
That was cool. You know where she does the thing where like she's
with
trying to
the-
get the guns to
Oh,
work.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
pretty cool when she
Yeah.
did that.
I was a bit disappointed with her character flashback. I thought they would make more of that. There was too much of that revealed in the trailer, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think like particularly some of the imagery of that
Because that looks spectacular.
Watching the trailer, seeing some of that, particularly the Valkyries all descending on Hela on
Yeah.
their horses, I was just like, oh my god, if this film looks like this, I
Yeah.
am going to weep.
because I thought
massive manly
that,
tears over
yeah,
it.
I thought that could potentially be part of the end battle. So I was just like, holy fuck, this is going to be
And then
sick.
it was
and
so early on, wasn't it? And it
Yeah.
was so brief.
and it was like,
oh.
it was like 30 seconds. I was like, no,
It still
I want
looked
more.
incredible.
It
Yeah,
did
it
look
did. It did.
fantastic.
It did.
I think it's really hard for strong female roles to be done right in films, because they always try to also make them really sexy at the same time and really feminine, and sort of strap them up in weird funky costumes and stuff.
I agree.
I think they got her character perfectly
Mm.
right in this film.
I do
you
agree
not
with
think?
that.
I know. I
an
found it
extent.
hard to. Only when they were flying out and they were sort of jumping around doing all that stuff did I really buy that she was kind of a badass. And then pretty much everything else, I was like, nah. She's kind of.
But when she knocks over the Hulk when she's playing with him, you're like, shit, she's strong. Do you not think that?
Yeah, there were moments. I think I agree with Dev in that it
I
took
thought
a
she was-
while to realise her real strength. Like, I mean, maybe I'd say a bit earlier. I
No.
think the chase scene when they're heading towards the Devil's Anus.
You just love
I
saying
do
that.
love that.
I just wanted to say
No,
Devil's
but I
Anus
thought
again.
she was
Devil's
quite
anus.
strong, like you said, from when she was playing with the Hulk. 'cause
Yeah.
the way she was playing with him.
She pushed him over.
No, she,
like
she was badass from the start.
No, I'm not talking about her, the character she's playing. I mean, like, I felt like she was trying too hard to be like, I don't care about shit, because I got memories.
it was a little too. Yeah,
It was
I get,
too contrived, I
yeah.
felt, and that kind of got to me. But you know, sometimes it's hard to be this super sexy Valkyrie and also be
It is
a badass. I know it's hard. I try. I live this life.
No, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think with her they were trying to, like, no disrespect to the actress, because like she's obviously like a beautiful looking woman, but I didn't think they tried to sex her up at
No,
all.
I
To be
didn't.
honest,
Did you not see her costume? It had like gold breastplates on it.
No,
It
when she was
ridiculous.
Valkyrie at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I was
yeah,
like,
but I
come
no, but
on.
I like the costume obviously was very fitting, but
Yeah.
I don't think her character was there for the point of being, oh, she's a bit of a,
No,
you
she
know what I
wasn't
mean?
eye
I don't-
candy. I'm
which
not
I-
saying that.
Yeah,
no.
she wasn't like nothing to like. She, like I said, she's a pretty girl, but like she wasn't there for that. Just like Kate Blanchett's character wasn't there for that. They both looked amazing as hell,
Yeah.
but they weren't there as eye candy.
No, but Kate Blanchett, I bought being a badass. Like, I was like, yep, Kate Blanchett here would fuck me up. Whereas, like,
You wish.
yeah, totally. But this Valkyrie girl, I felt like she was playing at being a badass.
Yeah, but she's
Even though she was
she's young.
supposed to be.
Do you know what I mean? She's this young
She's
girl.
not though. She's like, I think she's like,
She's meant to be old. I
Yeah,
mean,
she's older than
theoretically,
Thor.
considering
Yeah,
she's
but
got
I
to be
mean-
older than Thor, right?
Okay,
yeah,
but
that threw me. that whole
she's
thing.
gone through all this crap and she's just got a bit of a chip on her shoulder about it. So you need to break down those walls.
She
to get it out there.
She must have had a chip on her shoulder for a long time,
Long
though,
ass
if you
time.
think about the whole
Yeah.
timeline of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm not entirely sure I'm on board with the timeline.
No.
either.
I was a geek and I was sat there thinking, this
Like,
it's not working.
there are some inconsistencies there in terms of.
But but then in the same vein, I kind of like that because they are more like he's a god. They're and she's a superhuman-y, powery goddy.
He is a god.
Who? Chris Hemsworth. Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah. No, that was interesting to me. But I didn't think they super sexed her up, and she was still
No,
attractive.
I don't think they did at all.
No, I don't like the. I mean, the beginning, the costume they had her in was like perfectly suitable. I don't know. I find, to be fair, now I'm really biased because like the only two like proper female leads that I've ever bought as being hardcore are Sigourney Weaver in Aliens and Linda Hamilton in Terminator. There's like I was like yes, where like you felt like they abandoned all attempts to try and be sexy. I'm not saying that they were ugly or shitty or anything in it, but they were more concerned with kicking ass than they
And
were
their
looking
makeup.
good and their makeup and shit. And I always feel like, yeah,
Whereas Valkyrie must have applied all that white paint every single fucking day.
every day from the mirror, I'm so sad about my friends. Yeah, crying her makeup off every few minutes. No,
Would that be the Zakar equivalent of emo?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
Yeah. Right.
No, I mean she was a fine character, but I thought like you compare her to Kate Blanchett, and I was like there was a lot less gravitas And I think they could have done more maybe with her character to bring that out. Whereas it was just like, you're so sad and withdrawn, and why is that? And then, oh, because your friend's dead.
Do you think she's going to develop
Simplify
a
it.
lot in Infinity? Do you think she'll be in Infinity?
Well, I think the problem, kind of building on what Dev said, is that I felt there might be the potential that they are setting her up as a love interest for Thor.
Oh, that's blatant, though. Especially
But-
when they land
yeah,
on the crab.
and I just thought like,
I love that bit.
yeah, and that's the bit like that bit in particular where after they've destroyed a bunch of ships as they're heading towards the Devil's Anus. Yeah, I got to say Devil's Anus again. And
Devil's Anus.
Devil's Anus.
Devil's Anus.
And they both kind of fight, destroy a load of ships, and then they both jump onto the ship they're on together, and they have this moment where they look at each other, and you're just like, was that necessary?
I like that, though. I think, because he's like, oh, you know, I didn't dump, Jane didn't dump me, I dumped Jane, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, he's moving on.
Was it just like a kind of, screw you, Natalie Portman? We
He
found
doesn't
someone
want to
else.
be in any more films, so he has to move on.
Is that the crux?
I don't know.
Oh.
Just saying.
I didn't like Jane in the first instance, I have to say. I was like, Thor could do better.
Yeah, you can do better than Natalie Portman. I remember, Steve. I remember the poster and how much in love with her you were.
No, I love Natalie
I'm not
Portman.
going to deny that.
But her character as Jane, I didn't.
It's not her best role. She's
No.
done much more interesting stuff. I think,
did
like,
that.
and I think that might be part of it. Is that, quite frankly, Natalie Portman has done films that are far more interesting than a bit part in a
Yeah,
Marvel film,
That's true.
and perhaps it didn't serve her to carry on just playing this love interest role.
No, I think.
Which I completely get. You know, why would she? But yeah, the fact that they may just be shoehorning in another character as a love interest seems a little.
He doesn't
forced.
need a love interest. Just go kick
Yeah,
some
I mean,
ass,
it's
man.
not necessary. So.
You don't have to have a romantic plot sort of line in every film. That, I think, really gets on my tits.
You don't need a romantic interest in Marvel. I don't think you do.
You don't
I
need,
like that element.
No, I don't think it's needed.
No.
I
feel
don't think it's
alone.
needed. Maybe the way Pepper is with Iron Man, you know, very brief. Like, I work for you, but yeah, let's have a little snog. Do you know what I mean? That's about it. I don't think it needs to be anything more than
I think
that.
the Pepper Iron Man dynamic is a little more interesting in that there's more of a kind of tussle there between, you know, them holding a stable relationship together and his commitments and her commitments and so on. But
And she knows him so well.
yeah, Natalie Portman's character, for example, was very much just kind of chasing after a space hunk, essentially.
Space hunk. He most certainly was.
I didn't get the whole Black Widow and Hulk thing either, I have to say. That didn't work for me.
No, me neither. Me neither.
That's a story for another day. So, guys, to round up, how would you rate this film out of 5?
I would give it a solid 4.5 out of 5. And I've talked a lot of shit about it so far, but actually I loved it overall. It was really funny. It looked great. It had great action scenes. Kate Blanchett was fantastic in it. Love Kate Blanchett.
We all do.
I'm sure that there are some purists who read the comic books who would absolutely be horrified if they saw some of it. But actually, if you just want a really fun movie out, I would totally recommend it.
Cool. Stephen?
Yeah, I think I'm entirely in agreement with Dev on that front. Like, we kind of have picked a couple of holes in it, but actually, in general, I think this is one of the best films Marvel has produced yet. Just like pure fun, action, adventure, nonsense. It's just fantastic, and I think I will be quoting this film for like a long time afterwards.
It is very quotable.
Yeah.
Harry?
I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Oh, low.
No, it's not. I genuinely enjoyed this, and I would go back and watch it. On reflection, I found a few issues with it, but overall, my viewing experience of it was I enjoyed it, and I actually ranked it as my 3rd favourite MCU film. The first one being Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Good choice. Good choice.
Lorraine?
I actually would give it a 5 because I freaking loved it. I just thought it was bloody brilliant. I thought it was back-to-back action and comedy and just completely enjoyed it. And if I had to pick a number 1 film, I'm sorry, Tony Stark, but you've been bumped up to number 2 because Thor Ragnarok has taken your place at number 1. I just absolutely fucking loved it. Okay, so that was our opinions on Thor Ragnarok, and we really hope that you go out and see it and enjoy it as much as we did. But for now, we're going to talk about a new addition to the podcast that wasn't there in episode 1 called the Flashback Film Club, where all the listeners can send us their favourite film, the director, their actor, and we can all do a small segment at the end of it discussing, you know, what we think about their suggestion. But for today, we're going to discuss a film that was actually suggested by our fellow guest, Steve. And that comes from Lord of the Rings, and he is particularly focusing on the Fellowship of the Rings.
Just to give you a quick synopsis of the film, it follows the exploits of Frodo Baggins and his mates.
Samwise Gamgee.
Samwise Gamgee, Merry, Pippin, and along the way they meet some dude called Aragorn and an elf called Legolas and a dwarf called...
Gimli.
That's one. And
a wizard.
Oh yeah, shit, Gandalf.
Gandalf.
The Great.
The Grey.
Boromir.
Grey, sorry.
This is excellent.
You have no idea how
You
this is
shall not
upsetting me
pass.
right now.
Yeah, so it's all basically about this ring. And then we'll go from there.
It's about a ring.
So, Steve, what is it about this film that you decided to pick as your Flashback Film Club film?
I think for me, it's kind of one of the most influential films in my life for a number of reasons. It sort of came about just at the right time in my life. I was, 11, 12 when it hit cinemas, so young and impressionable, and going to see this film for the first time and completely blown away by it. Just this amazing fantasy spectacle. But at the same time, there's something about the first film that I value above the others, in the sense that it is essentially this really basic journey about a couple of characters traveling from A to B, and there's very little else to it. And there's something about that that's really kind of
Universal.
yeah. There's something about it that speaks to everybody, and that anyone can get on board with.
Do you think it kind of shows how the little guy can do it? Because they're all arguing.
Prejudice against hobbits.
Okay, how the hobbits can do it. Because, like, basically you've all these tough guys arguing over who's going to take it. And then just, like, Frodo pops up with his mates. We're going to do it. And off they go. I don't think they really realise what they're getting into. But, you know, they're up for the task.
There's certainly that, yeah. There's certainly something about the kind of achieving against all odds and being the person that steps up and takes responsibility.
I really like the friendship, the fellowship aspect of this film. At its core, you've got a bunch of like mates from the beginning, you know from school kind of vibe.
With the really annoying mate.
Yeah, and then you kind of progress. You might get traveling a little bit, and you meet that one character that you FaceTime now and again. It's that kind of vibe.
They did that in the film, but they cut it because it didn't quite work.
But it's got that, you go out, you make friends, they guide you through life, you get through some harsh times. That's the badger for me.
I think as well, they cast this film so perfectly.
Yes, they did.
There's just like every actor just hits the nail on the head for me. From like Sean Astin playing Samwise Gamgee, and if anyone's been watching Stranger Things,
I ain't dropping no eaves.
Just like how good Sean Astin is.
He was
just,
He's still got it from the
he's-
days of the Goonies to now.
Yes.
right up until now.
Yeah.
Just incredible. And then Viggo Mortensen playing Aragorn. Like
Harry's pleased about that.
Harry's getting a little excited about that.
I was in love with him at the time.
I still am.
Well, Don't forget Sean Bean playing Boromir, probably my favorite part in the whole film. I think that redemption story is just fantastic.
Yes.
Really well done for something that's not necessarily a unique character arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy, but at the same time, he presents this obstacle for Frodo in his quest to destroy the ring.
Yeah.
I think that it's what marks him out as one of the most interesting characters of the story, and it's what makes the Fellowship of the Ring one of the most interesting
Yeah.
parts of the trilogy. Is this conflict between what is right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene where he tries to take the ring from Frodo, and I just think that's incredibly well acted by Sean Bean, and where he's the regret when he sort of realizes what he's done and where he's at.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really powerful.
For me, in this particular scene, I think they did. I'd say it's one of my favourite moments. Two favourite moments of the film is when the ring wraiths are involved. I think they shot those so well. It's so spooky. It's so intense. It's so immersive. You are afraid of these old kings, aren't they?
But I think one of the beautiful things about Fellowship is that it seems to be almost such a budget production, and the ring wraiths are just these figures cloaked in black, and yeah, they're so effective. They're so creepy, so visceral, and like,
Yeah, you can you feel them just over your
yeah,
shoulder.
like
in
that
one
moment
scene.
where they all start walking into the top of Weathertop and surrounding Frodo and
it's
the other
genuinely
hobbits.
unnerving.
There's something about that that's just like it sticks with you.
Yeah, and the race to Buckleberry Ferry as well. That's pretty intense.
Yes,
with the horses. Yeah.
I like it when they're under the tree.
Yeah.
That's one bit that
and
me.
they're kind of.
He's there and he's looking around and Frodo or whatever.
They remind me of the Dementors from Harry Potter.
A bit, yeah. Actually, that's true.
They do.
Yeah, there's definitely
an element.
comparisons, isn't there?
Yeah.
But
But I just want to take this point to shout out to the Balrog. Love you, Balrog. My boy. Probably the coolest character in the whole goddamn movie.
he is awesome.
Yeah.
He is awesome.
But to be fair, we haven't even mentioned Gandalf yet. And
How did we forget about Gandalf?
How did we forget about
I
Gandalf?
was at the time, I remember being very happy with Ian McKellen cast as Gandalf.
I still am.
Yeah. Nobody could have
totally
played his
pulls it
role
off.
better.
He kind of is Gandalf
He just,
now, isn't he? Like,
yeah.
it's very difficult to
I
imagine.
love it in extras when he's going for a role with in Ricky Gervais's extras, and he's explaining to him that he's not actually Gandalf. Ian McKellen, and he just is Gandalf when he's told action. You shall not pass. Ian McKellen.
You realise that I'm not actually a wizard.
And
Sorry, off track.
Christopher Lee as well as Saruman is masterful.
Yeah.
He is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it is a lovely introduction to the trilogy, and I'm in agreement with Dev. My favourite one is the Two Towers, but I think it just has a bit more grit.
Mine's the third
Helm's
one.
Deep. Come
I know
on.
you're
That's
not.
the worst.
I know everyone says that, but do you know what it is?
bored.
I think I'm a whore for action, and it's when
You whore.
oh, that sounds really bad. I'm a whore for action. It's when the ghost. Sorry, I'm really bad at explaining Lord of the Rings. You know when the ghost people jump off the boat and like Legolas kind of and Aragorn jumps with them and
Legolas. He lost a leg.
Legolas when they jumped off the boat and they just like swooped through. I mean, I love that. Pure action. I just love the action.
Part of the whole
I'm
thing.
sorry.
Bringing my mega nerdy head into this, there's this really interesting analysis of that particular bit of the Lord of the Rings that deals with the idea of eucatastrophe. And eucatastrophe is this word that Tolkien coined as an event that is
Sorry, what's that word?
Eucatastrophe.
Eucatastrophe.
And it's eucatastrophe. And it's this idea of this kind of complete unexpected turn of events, like that moment in The Return of the King where you get the Ride of the Rohirrim coming in at the last minute, and then Aragorn turning up with the ghost ships and such. Just to completely change, like turn the course of the battle and flip it on its head as this kind of beautiful moment
Good
of
word.
change. And it's just this, I think, like in terms of
everyday people.
one of the later films, it's one of the more like fascinating moments of that
But
film.
we're not going there. We're staying with
We're staying with Fellowship.
Staying with the
Staying with
Fellowship.
Fellowship.
So, for people who haven't seen these films, how would you sell it to someone to watch? First of all, obviously, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Shit.
I'd sit them down and have at least a full hour conversation with them. But
Say they've only got enough time for 10 minutes.
say we're talking elevator pitch here. I'd say it's a story that is set in the most rich universe that you can imagine, and that I will throttle them if they don't go see it, because it's just staple diet for me.
I'd just like to say we do not encourage violence on this podcast.
No, I'm being facetious, but no, it's an absolute must-watch, a classic of its time, and still great to watch today. It's aged very well.
I'm very glad that this came out during my lifetime. I have to say that I didn't have to go back and be, oh, it's an oldie. No, it came out, and I remember the buzz, I remember the hype, I remember the enjoyment.
Huge hype.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the selling points of The Fellowship as an introduction to the trilogy over the later two films. Two Towers and Return of the King have a lot to offer, but because The Fellowship is actually quite minimal on special effects and CGI, it hasn't aged as much as the other films
That's
have.
true.
I think in comparison to the Two Towers and Return of the King, actually it's the one that's aged the best. And as an
Yeah.
introduction to the trilogy, it really serves that purpose of being like, this is a fucking awesome story.
Wow. Thank you. Right then, I think that's the end of the podcast. I think we've done a good rundown of Thor Ragnarok. We hope we've covered a few of the issues you may have had with that film and a few of the good points as well. We've also just covered the Fellowship of the Ring. Maybe you have a few thoughts on that. If you do, let us know in the following way.
And feel free to join us on our Thoughtful Film Chat by emailing us at showmethepodcast@gmail.com. So send in your favourite films that you want us to talk about on our Flashback Film Club. In our next podcast, episode 3, we're going to be discussing all things Stranger Things. If you want to check out more things about what we're doing, you can go to our Facebook page, our WordPress page, and our Instagram page, which are all Show Me the Podcast. And you can also follow us on Twitter at SMTPcast.
You can also see mine and Lorraine's individual projects such as blogs, videos and more in the following way. I'm Tales of Peck on Instagram, WordPress and Twitter.
So with mine, I'm on WordPress and Pinterest at Winging It, The Truth About Parenting. And you can follow me on Twitter at Lorraine Smith, that's Smith with a Y, 74, and Instagram at Lorraine Smith. And you've been listening to Show Me the Podcast. Thank you for listening.
We wish we could chat a bit longer, but Lorraine and Steve are having an old friend for dinner.